for those that are not familiar with the different types of agile methodologies, and really it's a way of working, right? And so what we look at is there are single team approaches to agile. The most common ones that we hear out there are Scrum, Kanban, CI/CD, and a lot of people use DevOps or DevSecOps, which includes the security piece of the development and operations. And so that gets to be included into those single teams. And then what happens as we start to expand beyond those single teams, there's a few different approaches for methodologies. There's Scrum of Scrums, Scrum at Scale, large scale Scrum, and then probably one of the most popular ones, which is SAFe, which is Scaled Agile Framework. And really what happens is we see a lot of times is that, organizations have more than one team. And so what starts to happen is you might have teams that are working in different approaches. Some teams might be working in Kanban, some might be working in Scrum. And so it becomes very difficult and challenging at times to start to carry that into an organization. When we talk about different teams, a lot of times we start with small teams, and we want to work with small autonomous teams or cross-functional teams. And really that value, and one of the things I learned early on is Amazon focuses on what they call a two pizza team, right? So basically your team should be no bigger than the number of people that can consume two pizzas. Now, being from the Midwest, I can probably consume one by myself, but that's kind of their analogy of the size of a team, a really good functional team. So what are the different phases? And like I said early on, you might be really early on in adopting agile, or trying to make your teams more agile, or you may have done this for a while. And so what we see organizations that are a number of different phases, and phase one could be, hey, we're just starting out, we're doing short sprints, starting to implement stories and epics, and starting to do our retrospectives, and we have a real basic release management, and maybe you're doing story-based approach to this. Phase two, you start to move into more automation and doing testing, starting maybe with CI, starting to get more agile project reporting, and now you're starting to add feature-based benefits into this. And then some of those things that start to help with that are more advanced knowledge collaboration tools, understanding kind of where your team is from a health standpoint. What are the teams working on? Better reporting aspects. We then start to move into kind of phase three, which is that agile testing, and we start to move into the CD part of that. We talked a little bit about the executive reporting, like understanding how the teams are integrated and what those dependencies are, and are we on track to deliver. Starting to build out kind of that agile service desk, right? So how do we support the teams, not only the IT teams, but the non-IT teams as well, making sure you integrate some type of chat ops with that. And of course, in today's environment, Teams or Slack or whatever you might be using, we get to be a little bit more release-based focused. Again, hyper collaboration now is more important. So starting with more automation, bots, you can even start to add AI to that, right? So in the last 9 months, AI has just exploded into the marketplace and into companies. How does that start to play, and where does that really fall? Is it a phase 3 or is that a phase 4? And then phase 4, we really start to talk about the agile DevOps. Again, adding that security piece is probably really important, as we've seen with MGM over the last week, how a simple phone call to a service desk ended up shutting down their entire system. And I think as of yesterday, still their ability to make reservations, take reservations was still down. So really important from the security aspect that things are buttoned up. Your QA, enterprise level QA, project management, resource planning, as I talked about a little bit earlier, and really having the right tools to help facilitate that. So kind of the agile, the values of agile, right? And I think one of the biggest things for us is understanding, individuals and interactions are more important than process and tools. So really what agile does is it puts people and collaboration at the center of of everything instead of really focusing on the process and the tools. Agile allows you to encourage collaboration among your team members, your clients, stakeholders, and really to achieve the goals that you're working on. The next thing is, a working product is more important than a comprehensive documentation. And so what we mean there is that as you're working from an Agile standpoint, it's really essential to work on and concentrate on creating a working product, something you can get to market or something you can show to say, look, here's where we are today. And then what does that look like if we're doing Scrum? What's the goal in 2 weeks? And so this really translates on focusing on creating effective campaigns, being able to create what that next phase looks like for the individuals, as we talked about being focused on customers. And that's kind of where the next phase is customer collaboration is more important than contract negotiation. And the primary goal of this is that we want to satisfy the customer's needs through collaboration and continuous improvement. So feedback, as we talked about, use your Apple apps, or if you're using a different platform, that's where those next features and benefits typically come from. Is how many customers are asking for this type of improvement upon it, and so identifying those, creating that backlog, and then really focusing on delivering those. And then responding to change is more important than following a plan. So we may have a plan to deliver these types of features and benefits over the next 6 months, next 12 months. All of a sudden, pandemic happens and those things are not as important anymore. Or what we thought was important 6 months ago is not important today. What are the benefits of Agile and within Monday as well? And so flexibility, right? So Agile really allows teams to be quick to adaptation to any changes or customer needs. The flexibility really enables real-time modifications to your strategy while maintaining a competitive advantage. Improved efficiencies. Through the Agile approach, it really allows your employees, again, to collaborate through the process, to manage tasks more efficiently. It allows for producers to better understand the outcome in less time, understands, are you on time? Are you going to meet the deadlines that you've laid out? Are you going to meet the features and benefit rollouts that you've talked about? Or are there things that have delayed that for whatever reason? Cost reduction. Being Agile really allows you to reduce the unnecessary and redundant marketing or development costs. It really allows you to focus on the resources that are most relevant. It allows you to focus on the activities that allow you to enhance the overall process to be more efficient. Enhance quality. So this fosters, again, collaboration and communication, which is a reoccurring theme. You hear a lot about silos, right? So if you're siloed, you have no idea what the other team is working on. By having that collaboration, that communication allows for much more effectiveness, allows for the ability to change quickly if you need to. It also encourages the exchange of ideas, which in the long run really enables you to have a much higher quality work and for that production to be meeting the customer's needs. And then the last one is that continuous feedback, right? So the more visibility, as we talked about, with all the activities that are going on, with all the different teams, if you're managing one team or 20 teams, it's really important to have that continuous feedback. And the feedback from not only from customers, but from your team members. So the more that we get feedback from them, if it's doing stand-ups for updates or whatever the feedback may be, it's really important to have that communication stream open and available.
So really, there's a couple of things that I wanted to show you guys, and both of them stem from Monday's kind of the new additions to the product areas, right? They have Monday Dev, which essentially kind of allows you to kind of see how they've evolved Monday to onboard and support development teams, and at the same time, more from the project management type of a approach and see how that allows team to manage project at scale. And so let's start with the Monday Dev. We're not going to go into the a development side of things. I think it's a webinar of its own. Where we can see how the Monday Dev interacts with the source control management, CI and CD. And so we'll have those webinars later on. But in terms of Agile, this is a take from Monday.com on how they see Agile working within Monday.com. So kind of everything starts with the quarterly goals. You have an ability to add goals that are connected down to everything else that I'm going to be showing you later. And you'll see that right on the board, each goal is connected to one or more items on the product roadmap. And basically, you can see that you have a quarter start, you have a quarter goal, and when it ends, and the percentage of the goal completed. On the product roadmap, it essentially gives you an ability to have kind of the features that you want your development team to implement, or in case of marketing team, something that the marketing team is going to be working on. And so here you have the status, and they do allow you to kind of summarize and rank each item in terms of what type of the impact or what level of confidence you'll have for this item and how much effort it'll take to implement. And so you can, they broke it down to reach, impact, confidence, and effort. And basically the reach, it's the audience and how many customers are going to be affected by it, how big of an impact, right? And so each one of the items can be ranked for the impact, the confidence in terms of whether this roadmap item will hit its target, and then the effort is actually how much effort is needed. And obviously, to make decisions of what goes, what doesn't go, you want to have minimal effort, maximum reach, and maximum impact, right? And so, kind of having a happy medium on that drives the decision making. The other thing is you see that this is also linked back to the quarterly goals, and so this information is driving whatever is at the top of the level, right? So if you breaking it up into quarterly goals and tracking that work that way, this will drive the status and the items on the quarterly goals board. So this, at the very high level, this is kind of a more of a C-level type of a view. If we're gonna get down and start looking at actually kind of driving from the Agile side, you have the epics that kind of define everything that has been defined on the roadmap, and the epics are actually connected to the roadmap items, and the epics are also connected to the tasks, and the tasks are basically kind of like the stories that actually implement these epics. And so this is the link to the tasks, and then of course you've got the links to the product items. And so as you see me kind of going through these boards, you will see that everything is connected. So whatever changes you make on the lower boards will eventually drive the changes on the boards above without actually going in and manually intervening and changing the statuses and calculations and so on. And so obviously having epics is great. You have an ability to kind of organize the work you're going to be doing on your stories, and then all of the work that's going to be done is obviously broken down into sprints. And so you have the multiple sprints along with the backlog introduced in the tasks board. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about this board. So first thing that I want to mention is a little bit of a new functionality. Not only that you're able to create a new task, but you can also create a new sprint. And so we're going to go ahead and hit create sprint. And we're going to call it very creatively sprint 5, because we have 4, so the next one is going to be 5. We're going to hit create sprint. And so the sprint was sent to the board. Getting away from that for a second, if we go down to the sprints, you'll see that the sprint 5 was added also to the sprints board. And so that will be here, and then you can actually set the dates that will then translate into the dates on the sprint here. And so if I want to do that, I'm going to say we'll start the sprint maybe on the 31st of October, and it's going to go for 15 days. There you go. And if we go down to the sprint, now you'll see that automatically that sprint gets its days added automatically. Very neat. And actually, it's vice versa. If we're going to add a new sprint here, the sprint 6 will also appear here as a new group on the task board. There's a couple of new things. Right now we have sprint 1 running, and you can see that we can either complete it or have this a burn down function. And so this is kind of a report that shows you everything that's going on with the sprint. At some point, sprint got started. Some tasks had the change of status. Some tasks were added to the sprint. The stories were modified. So this is kind of an audit trail of what happened within the sprint. And so on the right, you have the burn down of how many story points you have total in your sprint, and then how well you're doing to try to go through and complete the sprint with the most story points completed. We can actually go ahead and hit complete the sprint, and then you can either take the items that have not been completed in sprint 1 and then create a new sprint, or you can actually take that and move that to the sprint 2. And so we chose that, and so sprint 2 got items that have not been completed, and they got added to the sprint. And so we can actually go ahead and start the sprint for sprint 2, and so on and so forth. So this is kind of the flow of going from sprint to sprint, and understanding of what's included and how it's progressing. Obviously, having the sprint running is great, but you got to have a little bit more context and be able to see a familiar way to view the ongoing sprint. And so you have the board that you can take a look at and see where everything is at, which provides an easy view and instant ability to kind of move things around. So for example, if I'm working on something in progress, I can go ahead and throw that into done and kind of utilize the board to update statuses and the items themselves if need be. And so I can actually click on an item, bring it up, and have the item come up and change things if I need to. Remember I mentioned there's an ability to do the integration with Git, or either GitLab or GitHub. That's all here. Topic for another webinar. Obviously, as you're working through the sprints, you can see either the way it's showing on the board. You're able to actually go and find the sprints that are out there, so you can see them, how they are looking on the board. So if I want to go and look at sprint 3, I got nothing on that sprint, and so I'm gonna cancel that out, and then it'll bring back the current sprint. For the daily stand-up, essentially you're able to see how many stories you have planned. This is kind of the 15-minute meetings that we talked with Greg about, and so you see the progress of how many items are ready to start, how many are pending deploy, what's in progress, and so on. And so you'll see the planned story points, how many were unplanned, and how many are completed. And so, of course, you have the actual task that you're working on in the lower end of the dashboard. Interesting thing, the proposition is to keep the bugs separate, and so, for example, if bugs are going to be kept separately, what you want to do is you want to have an ability to kind of incorporate that into the sprints. And so in the status, you can say move to sprints. And so a couple of things are going to happen. This will move a bug over to the managed in sprints. And so that work is going to be brought over to tasks. And you'll see that if you want to go into all sprints, at the bottom, the bug was actually added to the backlog. And if I want to, I can go ahead and measure it and say, this is going to be 10 story points, and I'm going to go ahead and add that to the current sprint too. And so we can go back and take a look at the dashboard, and you'll see that that got added here, as well as the planned story points were updated. A couple more things that are kind of available. There is a product requirement document that you can add to the product roadmap. That's one thing that I did not mention, and so you can kind of, for each of these items, of these bigger items, you can define them in a document and attach them. And so it can be either a file that you have externally, or you can have a product requirement document template followed and have that as a part of your planning and kind of incorporating that into your development process. Greg, Carlos, any questions so far, thoughts?
Let's check to see if Monty has any questions from the participants, I guess, who are online.
Yeah, I have one. It says, what are the potential challenges and obstacles that team mix face when they are trying to implement agile methodology with Monday?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily a question for Monday itself. I mean, you can see that there's a very rich interface that allows you to do the reporting and understanding. It gives you a insight as to everything that your team is doing. I think kind of a biggest challenge that we've seen, it's not the tool itself. The tool can be flexible enough to support either to the implementation of Agile to the manifesto or a variation of it. I think the biggest challenge outside of that is actually the having a process, having people follow the process, and kind of all that coming together.
Super. We have another question. Yeah. What is the sprint board used for? Why would the board be called?
So I'm assuming this is you're talking about this board. So basically, this just isolates the sprints. It shows the current sprint. The current sprint status, what's active, what's not. So you have an active sprint that'll show you that it's active, and it shows you the status of the sprint overall. So all the items that are tasks that are added to the sprint are going to be transpiring their status in here. So more for reporting purposes and trying to understand, what's going on with the sprint and how it's progressing.
Okay, thanks.
Great. And so that kind of brings me back to, when we talked about a little bit higher level planning, right? So you have an ability to have a tracking projects at the higher level, even though you may have multiple projects kind of running at the same time, whether it's, agile or not, does not matter. You have your portfolio, right? These are the projects that you have running at any given moment. You have an ability to see if there's a program that they're part of, if there's project status, what are the status of those, and then each line, the baseline, project baseline, and project timeline that supports that project, as well as kind of shows any of the links to the items that have been implemented and what the actual process of the status of the current project. Along with those lines, you got the budgets and costs associated with each one, and so kind of transpires into the hours and the actual effort that's going to be applied to the project. And then, it shows which project actually, or which board actually implements this particular project in their portfolio. And so if we kind of go in and actually take a look at the projects, essentially all of the activities are being tracked. Anything that's planned in design, in development, it's kind of broken down slightly different, right? There's no sprints in this, but if you do want to apply the Agile template, you can, and you can have that as a part of your Monday project template as well. Kind of looking into a little bit of a familiar view, kind of having a Gantt view of the items, right? You have dependencies that you can define. You can show which item depends on which one, how they're progressing on the timeline, what goes after the other, and so on. And so a lot of this is kind of helps to plan and helps to understand where you are within the project at any given time. And then obviously having a project dashboard, right? Having the understanding of the status, kind of the overview on the progress overall, whether the project on time or not. You've got the planned effort versus actual, right? And kind of having that as a part of the dashboard. You got some cost management that you can provide, and so budget versus cost today, so you can kind of keep track of the budget, and of course keeping an eye on what type of costs are associated with a given project. Having the excuse me, I'm actually missing something here. Yes, kudos to live demos. Basically, there is a way to kind of summarize what the projects look put together, right? So kind of having a dashboard that summarizes multiple projects. And so if we kind of look at these projects here, you know, think of this dashboard and then have an understanding of, if you'll have more than one project on it, how that would translate and what type of information would show. And so even still, you'll be able to see the status, having a list of the overview of the overall status for each one, and kind of having a total budget for the organization, right? Not just one particular project, but multiple ones that are going on at the same time. I know this was very brief thoughts, questions. Greg, Carlos, Mani, maybe somebody popped in a question into the chat.
Yes, we have one. It says, is there a way for multiple teams to share the sprint board?
For multiple things, share a sprint board, meaning
Multiple teams using the same sprint
teams.
board.
Okay, so this is going back to the dev. So yes, I mean, you can have a kind of cross-team dashboard that shows kind of top-down a view of everything. You have, a dashboard that summarizes for each team's a sprint progress, any of the bugs that are coming in and added to the sprints, average time to resolution by each team, are there any incidents that are going on, and so on. And so you can bring multiple dashboards that, multiple boards into this central dashboard and kind of continue adding and having the status for multiple teams. But yeah, I mean, clearly having the a dashboard that shows status across multiple sprints and multiple teams is definitely possible.